Okay, so what is a hypothesis? Hypothesis, remember, is that statement which you need to test, or which you which you want to reject, or which you want to test for rejections. For example, if I tell you that a stock has a mean return of 10%, then this can be true, or this might be true, or might not be true. So if I want to test it, test this statement for rejection, then it is known as hypothesis testing. So this is a hypothesis. Hypothesis is any statement which you test to reject. Or so there can be only two outcomes of hypothesis testing: either you reject hypothesis, or you fail to reject hypothesis. So remember, there cannot be an outcome of accepting a hypothesis. If you have to accept it, then instead of saying acceptance, you say that we fail to reject that hypothesis. So either you reject or you fail to reject. These can be only two outcomes in statistics. So before you go into testing hypothesis, you first define hypothesis, that what hypothesis is. So there can be different types of hypothesis. There can be a test in which you want to check whether the expected return will be greater than 10% or not. There can be a test in which you want to test whether the expected return will be less than equal to 10% or not. There can be a test in which you want to test whether expected return will be within a certain range or not, or you want to test variance, that variance is a certain number or not, or you want to test equality of variances, whether variance A is equal to variance B or not. So there can be different tests, and so for these different types of hypothesis, different tests are used, or different structures or methods or formulas are used. But no matter what the formula is, structure or method remain, or methodology remains be the same. That is, first you define the hypothesis, which is known as null hypothesis. Null hypothesis is the hypothesis which you are testing. So for example, if I tell you that mean is greater than equal to 10%, this is my hypothesis. So this becomes your null hypothesis. Then you define alternate hypothesis. Alternate hypothesis is opposite of null hypothesis. So if it is a null hypothesis is mean being greater than equal to 10%, and alternate would be mean being less than 10%. So it is opposite of null hypothesis. Once you have defined this, then next thing is that you define the test statistic. By test statistic, we mean which test or formula should you use. Should you use Z formula, or should you use T table, or should you use chi-square table, or should you use F-test table? So there are different distributions, so you need to decide which distribution should be used for testing this. So key point should be that you should remember which formula, which test should be applied in which scenario, or which type of questions or scenarios. So remember, these tests concerning mean, or concerning mean value, or a specific value, can be tested using Z test or T test, and there are different scenarios in which we can use it or test it. So let's start with first example. You are analyzing Sender Equity Fund, a mid-cap growth fund that has been in existence for 24 months. During this period, it has achieved a mean monthly return of 1.5% with a sample standard deviation of 3.6%. So that means mean that it has achieved is 1.5%. Standard deviation is 3.6%. And N is 24, that is 24 months. Given its level of systematic risk and according to pricing model, mutual fund was expected to have earned 1.1% mean monthly return during that time period. Was expected to have earned 1.1 but actually earned 1.5. Assuming returns are normally distributed, are the actual results consistent with population mean monthly return of 1.1? So they are saying that are the actual results consistent with 1.1 or not? So in order to test it, you will test it at certain level of significance. So whenever you are testing hypothesis, you are making a statement, there is certain level of confidence with which you make it. So for example, you can say I am 95% confident that mean will be equal to this percentage, or you can say that I am 90% confident that it will be equal to this, and this confidence level is known as, or this confidence is known as level of significance. So whenever you are testing hypothesis, there needs to be certain level of significance. So what are you testing? You are testing whether mean return is same as expected return or not. So you are testing whether mean is equal to 1.1% or not. So your null hypothesis becomes, so your null hypothesis would be that H naught is that your mean is equal to 1.1%. This is your null hypothesis. And obviously alternate hypothesis will be that it is not equal to 1.1%. So being equal to expected value or not being equal to expected value, these are your two hypotheses. So hypothesis is being equal to 1.1 and null alternate would be not equal to 1.1%. By not equal, it means it can be greater than 1.1 or it can be lesser than 1.1%. So this you have defined. Second is that the selection of T stat. So assuming that population variance is unknown, if population variance is unknown, then you use T test. Or if it is known, you can use Z test. No matter what you use, answer will approximately be similar in both. So we will use T test. So second step is that you define a statistic which you want to use. So what statistic do I want to use? T stat or T test. So remember, for testing mean against a value, you will use T test or Z test for testing mean against a specific value. Now, when you have selected to use T test, then you will calculate T stat. That is, you will calculate the T value. How do you calculate T value? Same formula that we did earlier, x minus x bar divided by standard deviation upon root n for T and Z both. So here remember, it will be actual minus hypothesized. Hypothesized. So you have a hypothesized value which is in your hypothesis, and you have a actual return that you have generated. So it will be actual minus hypothesized value. So you take actual value which is 1.5 and you subtract hypothesized value which is 1.1, and you divide it by standard deviation upon root n, which is known as standard error. What is the standard error? Standard error is standard deviation divided by root n. And what is standard deviation divided by root n? Standard deviation is 3.6 and root of n would be square root of 24. So if I do this divided by standard deviation is yes, so if you divide standard deviation 3.6 by square root of 24, your standard error will come out to be 0.735. Correct? Any problem? So simple standard deviation divided by square root of n, which is square root of 24. This should come out to be 0.735. Any problem so far? So 3.6 divided by square root of n. N is 24. STO, store. So this comes out to be 0.735, which is your standard error. How do you calculate T stat? T stat is actual value minus hypothesized value divided by standard error. That we have already done in previous reading. So actual is 1.5, hypothesized is 1.1. So 1.5 minus 1.1 divided by standard error. gives you 0.544. So first step was to define the hypothesis. Second step is to calculate the value for that particular statistic. So here we were using t-test, so we calculated the value of t-value. And how did we calculate t-value? Using the same formula that we did in previous reading, and that comes out to be 0.544. So that means as per this hypothesis, or as per this data set, t-value is 0.544. Now we take the decision, but before we take the decision, we need to know the level of significance. So let's say if I tell you level of significance is 95%, or here it is given as tested in part. Level of significance is 10%. So level of confidence is 90% and level of significance is 10%. So if level of significance is 10%, this means confidence is 90%. And so it means 5% is here and 5% is on right hand side. Why? Because I will reject even if it is greater, and I will reject if it is lower. Why? Because I am testing mean equality. That is, it will be rejected if it is greater than a specific value, and it will be rejected if it is less than a specific value. When we are conducting such kind of test, it is known as two-tailed test. That means I will reject it in this tail and I will reject it in this tail. I will reject it in both the tails. This is known as two-tailed test. So now I need to find out this value with which I will compare my t-value. So I have computed t-value. Now I need to find out this value with which I will compare my t-value for rejection. And this value is known as critical value. How do I find it out? I find it out through t-table. So I go to t-table and I find out what is the value or confidence interval for 90% confidence level. Or I find out what are these two values, maximum and minimum, for 90% confidence level. So I will need to look at the t-table for finding the critical values. So I go on to t-table and I have these probabilities available. So from these probabilities I have, these are the values for 10% probability. So first I need to find out degrees of freedom as well. What is degrees of freedom? So I have 24 months. I have 24 months. So degrees of freedom is n minus 1. So degrees of freedom is 23. Okay, so 23. Now I have to find out the value. How do I find out the value? This t-table gives me the value in the right tail. So this t-table would give me the value in the right tail. So if I look at this column, this is p is equals to 10. P is equals to 10% means that it will give me the value where right hand side contains 10% of the total area or values. If I look at 2.5%, it means it will give me the values where this area on the right hand side is 2.5%. And if I look at the 5%, it will give me the values where area on the right hand side is 5%. So my confidence interval is 90%. So if my confidence level is 90%, I have 5% in left and 5% in right. So that means I want to check the 5% level of significance or 5% area. Value for 5% area, that will be this particular value. So in this column and against this degrees of freedom, if I check the value, it will be 1.714. This means this value is 1.714. So this value is 1.714. I will reject the hypothesis if my t-stat is coming out to be higher than 1.71, and I will reject it if it comes out to be lesser than minus 1.7. So first step I defined the hypothesis, second step I calculated the value, whatever the test is, it is T stat in this case. Third step, I find out the critical value. Fourth step, I compare my value with the critical value. I will reject this hypothesis if my value comes out to be higher than 1.71 or lower than minus 1.71, because this covers 90% data and this is 10%, and I have to make rejection in 10% of interval. So my value was 0.544. So this is, for example, T table. So my value is 0.544. The critical value is 1.71. So that means my value falls on the left hand side of critical value, which means it is not going into the critical region. This is critical region. So as it is not going into critical region, not on this side, neither on this side, nor on this side, it is in between. That means I failed to reject the hypothesis. Hypothesis is not rejected. So we fail to reject the hypothesis. And if we fail it, that means mean is approximately equal to 1.1%. This is a true statement. And we fail to reject this statement or this hypothesis. So remember these steps. First you define null and alternate hypothesis. Then you define test which you want to use. Based on that you calculate the value. Then you define or calculate critical value. Then you compare test statistic with critical value. And you take the decision. Any confusion up till here? Problem. Okay, so this is a simple mean test in which you are testing mean against a hypothesized value. In this case, hypothesized value was 1.1%. And this is a two-tailed test. If I give the same test and if I ask you, test whether mean is greater than 1.1% or not with a 95% confidence level of confidence. So now this is one tail test. Why? Because you will only reject if mean is less than 1.1%, or you will only accept this hypothesis if mean is greater than 1.1%. Let's do an example for this as well. So there is, I do not have an example, but let's say that if it is greater than, or let's say it is, you are testing mean being less than, for example, 1.1%. So this is your alternate, this is your null hypothesis. Your alternate hypothesis will be mean being greater than 1.1%. Again, you calculate T stat at this hypothesized value, and your T stat would come out to be 0.544. Now you compare it with the critical value. You reject this hypothesis. If value is greater than critical value, and you fail to reject if value is less than critical value. How do you find out critical value? You first need to know the confidence interval. Confidence level. Let's say you are told that confidence level is 90%. So if confidence level is 90%, that means this whole area is 90% and this will be 10%. So your critical region will be 10%. So you find out this critical value. What is this critical value? So now you look at 10%, you look at 23 degrees of freedom, and critical value will be 1.319. So that means this particular value is 1.319. What is my value? 0.544. It falls here. 0.544. So my value is lower than this value, which means I am not going into critical region. So this means that I will fail to reject the hypothesis. Had my value been greater than 1.319, then I would have rejected this hypothesis. But currently I am accepting this statement that mean is less than equal to 1.1% with 90% surety or confidence. So this is known as one tail test, in which you are only testing in one tail, in one direction. So this is about simple, very basic test, mean test. Another way to look at it is p-value. So for example, again the same example, we had 0.544 and we had 1.1 sorry 0.544 and 1.71. So this is, let's say, 0.544, this is 1.71, and area on the left hand side is critical region. This critical region is 5%. So one way to look at it is that I can compare 0.544 with 1.71. Another way to look at it, that I compare this whole area on the right hand side of 0.544 with 5%. And I can say that if this whole area is greater than 5%, then fail to reject. And if this area is less than 5%, which means this is falling somewhere here, then reject the hypothesis. So another way could be that instead of comparing values, I compare the probability or I compare the area. That is known as p-value. So area on the right hand side, or area being tested or probability being tested, would be known as p-value. So if I look at the p-value of 0.544 from the table, so if I try to find out 0.544, so here we do not have it, but in a longer table you can find it. So if I find out p-value of, for example, 0.544, it will be higher than 5%. If this whole area is higher than 5%, this means that we fail to reject the hypothesis. So that means if p-value comes out to be higher than critical region area or level of significance, then you fail to reject the hypothesis. Or if p-value comes out to be less than this critical region area or level of significance, then you reject the hypothesis. So that means instead of looking at value, you can also look at the compare the area or p-value, and if you do that, that is known as p-value, and this is how you compare it. So that is just another way of doing the same thing. So remember this, if p-value comes out to be greater than critical region area, you fail to reject. If it comes out to be lesser than, then you reject hypothesis. Lower the p-value, higher the chances of hypothesis being rejected. Why? Because you reject if p-value is less than critical region area. So if it is lower, there are higher chances that it will be lower than critical region area, and so you will reject. So lower the p-value, higher are the chances of hypothesis being rejected. Remember this statement. Now the question is, when should you use z-test and when should you use t-test? Again, if population is non-normal, you cannot use either of these two, as we discussed in previous class. So if population is non-normal, you cannot choose either of these two. But if population is non-normal but sample size is large, then you can use either of these two. If population is normal, sample size is large, you can use either of these two. If population is normal, sample size is small, then it is better that you go with t-test. So either if sample size is small or population variance is unknown, then you go with t-test, otherwise you go with z-test. So remember when to use z and t, but mostly these two are interchangeably used. Key point to remember is, if you have a small sample, then go with t-test instead of z-test, otherwise you can use either t or z. With large sample it is not much of a problem whether you use t or z, but if you have a small sample, then go with t-test. And in all of these examples, t will be preferred method, because t can be used in all of these cases except for non-normal small sample. So it is better that you just directly go with t-test, because in some cases both can be used and in some cases only t can be used. So it is better that you always go with t-test.
But in the previous chapter, did we not decide that if a sample size is very large, that is greater than 30, then we use t-test?
Yes, so if sample size is very large and if it is population is non-normal, so in that case you go with t-test. Why? Because the assumption is that if it is non-normal, then generally you should not use t-test or z-test. But if it is non-normal and sample size is large, then you can use t-test. But then again, z can be an alternative. But that should only happen in large sample if it is non-normal. Otherwise, if it is normal, then whether the sample is small or sample is large, as long as it is normal, then you can use it. But if population variance is unknown, then you go for t-test. So key points to remember are, if population variance is unknown, you go with t-test. Otherwise, in most of the cases, both can be interchangeably used. So remember this table. Otherwise, simpler would be that go for t-test. So in most of the cases, you will find t-test being used. So simpler method would be that go with t-test. This is a more conservative estimate. Yes. हाँ हो सकता है. So you may know population variance you have calculated, or maybe there is an estimate that you have. If population variance is known, then again you can use z-test, or t can be an alternative. So both, as I told you, both can be interchangeably used, but there will be some situations in which only t will be applicable. But then again you can use z as well, but t would be preferred one or more accurate, like here. Otherwise, even if you use z-test answer, your conclusion will almost be the same. Now next question is, or next point is, that if let's say that you are testing some hypothesis, maybe you reject it or maybe you fail to reject. There can be two conclusions, right? Maybe your estimation or conclusion is not always accurate or true. So maybe there is something which should not be rejected, but you ended up rejecting it. That means you made an error. Or maybe there is something which you should not reject, which should be rejected, but you failed to reject it. That means you made an error. So there can be two types of errors. One is that you rejected something which should not be rejected. So if you reject something which should not be rejected, then it is known as type 1 error. Type 1 error means that you rejected something which should not be rejected. On the other hand, if you fail to reject something which should be rejected, then that is known as type 2 error. So remember the difference, it is very important. Remember the definition. If you reject something which should not be rejected, that is type 1 error. If you fail to reject something which should be rejected, that is type 2 error. So remember the terminology. So what are the chances for rejection? Chances for rejection is alpha, which is your significance level. So that means significance level, or alpha, is the probability of type 1 error. So remember, alpha is the probability of type 1 error. There is another terminology which is used, which is power of test. What is power of test? Power of test is 1 minus probability of type 2 error. So remember these 2 points as well. Another key point to remember is 1 minus probability of type 2 does not mean 1 minus alpha, or does not mean alpha or anything. This has nothing to do with previous statement. This is a different statement. So power of test is not 1 minus alpha. Power of test is 1 minus probability of type 2 error, whatever it is. So probability of type 1 error is alpha, and power of test is 1 minus probability of type 2 error. So if probability of type 2 error is lower, power of test is higher. So again, something to memorize. So only thing that you can do is memorize this type 1 and type 2 error definitions. There is nothing as such concept behind it. So remember type 1 and type 2 error definitions. Okay, so whenever you are taking a decision based on hypothesis, that is a statistical decision or statistically viable decision. Why? Because you are taking it based on statistic or based on statistic measures. So remember, statistically viable decision is not necessarily economically viable as well. A decision maybe economically viable, but not statistically viable. That is, maybe hypothesis tells you that it is not viable, but still it is economically viable. Or a decision can be statistically viable and not economically viable. So remember the difference. It does not mean that a decision is not economically viable. If statistics tell you that a decision is not viable, it does not mean that it is not economically viable. Economic viability would take opportunity cost and other factors into account as well. It will consider externalities. It will consider opportunity cost. So these two are different: statistical result and economically viable decision. If something is giving you negative statistical result, that does not mean that you should not do it. Maybe there are reasons to do it. Maybe it is economically viable. It has positive externalities. It has low opportunity cost or whatever. So far we discussed a test in which we were testing mean against a value. Then we discussed a test in which we were testing mean being less than a value or greater than a value. This was two-tailed, this is one-tailed. Now another type of test can be related to differences of mean. What do I mean by this? Let's say I have one population of, let's say, S&P 500 index, and another population of, let's say, Dow Jones index or whatever. So I have two separate population. I want to check whether the returns on these two are different or not. Whether the returns on these two are statistically different or not. Do both of these give me same return, or do they give me different return? If they are same, then their difference should be 0. If they are different, then difference should not be 0. This is the test concerning differences of mean. Again, as it is related to mean, what test will I use? I will use t-test. So t-test in first scenario, t-test in second, t-test in third. Why? Because all these are related to mean. Whenever you are testing mean, you use t-test mostly. Okay, so how do I test it? So there can be two types of tests within tests concerning differences of mean. So let's say these two are population, and I do not know their population variance. I do not know what is the variance of this population. I do not know what is the variance of this population. But I know that these two are equal. So there can be two cases. One, population variances are equal, and two, population variances are unequal or not equal. These can be the two scenarios. So test in both of these will be different. So remember, you do not know the population variance, but you know if they are equal or unequal. So first we will do an example in which we will assume that these two are equal. So what is t-test? Again, you will form a H0, a null hypothesis. Null hypothesis is that difference between these two is 0. Why? Because you are testing whether these two are giving you same return or not. So null hypothesis is that difference is 0. And alternate would be that difference is not equal to 0. So that means hypothesized value is mean 1 minus mean 2 equals 0. This is hypothesized value. What is the, so hypothesized value is mean 1 minus mean 2 equals 0. H A is mean 1 minus mean 2 is not equal to 0. Now what is the formula for t-test? Formula for t-test is actual minus hypothesized divided by standard error. So I will have actual value of both the population. So I can take that difference x2 minus x1. This is actual minus hypothesized. Hypothesized difference is 0. So mean 1 minus mean 2 or mean 2 minus mean 1 is 0. Divided by standard error. This is my t statistic. How do I get this x2 minus x1? I will have mean of both the population and I take the difference. So for example, in this question, I have mean of 0.580 and I have mean of 1.47. So I do mean 1 minus mean 2. That gives me actual difference. And then I subtract hypothesized value, which is 0. So that means numerator is sorted. No problem in calculating this numerator. Any problem? Now I go on to denominator, which is a standard error. Hypothesized value is 0. Why? Because your hypothesis is that the difference is 0. So hypothesized is 0. And the mean difference in actual is one population minus second population. First minus second population. So numerator is sorted. Now you need a standard error. What is the standard error? Standard error is standard deviation divided by square root of n. You have two population. Both will have different n and both will have different standard deviation. But what have you assumed? You have assumed that population variance is equal. The assumption is you know that population variances are equal. You drew a sample from this. Both sample have different standard deviation. But you know at the back population has the same standard deviation. So that means the standard deviation that you use for calculating standard error should also be same for both. If it is equal, then it should be same. So that means using these sample standard deviation, you need to find out one standard deviation which can be used for both. That is known as pooled variance or pooled standard deviation. So that means you take variance of first sample, variance of second sample, you put them into a formula and calculate one variance which can be used for both, which is known as pooled variance. So remember, when you are assuming population variances to be equal, you have to calculate pooled variance. Now the question is, how do you calculate pooled variance? So pooled variance has a formula which is n minus 1 into variance 1 plus n minus 2 into variance 2 divided by n1 plus n2 minus 2. So it is kind of a weighted average. So simply what you do is n minus 1 into first variance plus n minus 2 into second variance divided by n1 plus, sorry, n2 minus 1 divided by n1 plus n2 minus 2. This is the formula. If you look into here, this is n1 minus 1 into variance of 1, first variance, plus n2 minus 1 into second variance, and then you divide it all by n1 plus n2 minus 2. Why n1 plus n2 minus 2? Because degrees of freedom is n minus 1. So I first do n1 minus 1, then I do n2 minus 1. When I do n1 minus 1 plus n2 minus 1, it will be n1 plus n2 minus 2. So simply you are calculating degrees of freedom. So you take total degrees of freedom in denominator and you take respective degrees of freedom in numerator. So it gives you some kind of weighted average of these two sample variances. When you take it, calculate it, that is known as, and the answer that you get is known as pooled variance. So for example, in this case, pooled variance will be n1 minus 1. So n1 is 120 minus 1 multiplied by sample variance. So sample variance should be 4.598 square. So this is standard deviation, and so you need to square it for taking the variance. So 4 point, or it should be in percentage. Is it in percentage or not? Okay, 4.598 squared multiplied by 119 plus 4738 squared multiplied by 119 plus this divided by 190. So 120 minus 1, and this will be in, I think, is in percentage, so it is 0.04598, and then you add n2 minus 1, which is 120 minus 1 again, and you multiply it by 0.04738 square. So both are taken in a square. Why a square? Because this is variance. Yes. Because the standard deviation is given in percentage. I think this is percentage. 4.598 would be percentage. Cannot be absolute number. 120 minus 1 divided by 120 plus 120 minus 2. And when you solve it, you should get an answer of 21.795. So 21.795 is your variance. And if you want to calculate standard deviation, you take its square root. So the idea is, or the concept is, that you first calculate your variance, pooled variance, and then you use that pooled variance to calculate standard error. And once you have calculated standard error of first one and then second one, then you add them up, or you use this formula simply, that is variance divided by n plus variance divided by n2 to the power square 1 divided by 2, which is taking a square root of this whole. So when you do this, you get a standard error for both combined, and then you divide difference of actual and hypothesized value with the standard error to arrive at the t stat. So key difference is that in order to arrive at t stat here, first you check whether population variances are equal or not. That is, population 1 and population 2 variance are equal or not. If they are equal, you calculate pooled variance, and after pooled variance you plug it into this formula and you calculate t stat. If they are not equal, you cannot use this formula, then there is another formula that you will use. So once you have this t value, you know degrees of freedom, you can find out the critical value from t table, and you can compare this actual value with t value to find out whether it should be rejected or not. Yes. No. Okay, so you will have to remember these formulas. So degrees of freedom will be n1 plus n2 minus 2, 238. You find out critical value from t table and you compare it with actual value, and then you decide whether should you reject it or not. This is test concerning differences of mean, when you assume that population variances of population A is equal to variance of population B, that is equal variances. There can be another case in which you have unequal variances. That is, you are told that variance is unequal. When variance is unequal, then you do not need to calculate pooled variance. So which means that in this case you do not calculate pooled variance, but remember that you will have to calculate degrees of freedom. So if these two are equal, degrees of freedom are taken as it is, pooled variance is calculated. If these two are different, then degrees of freedom are calculated, variance is taken as it is. So for example, in next example, if you assume that these two are populations have unequal variance, then formula will remain be the same. This is the formula that we used earlier as well. X1 minus x2 minus 0. If I show minus 0 or not, that does not matter. Formula remains be the same. Null and alternate hypothesis remains be the same. Only difference is previously I calculated pooled variance and used it here. Now I will not be calculating pooled variance and using it here. I will be using their individual variances and their individual n's, n1 and n2. But when I go to find out critical value from t table, I will need degrees of freedom. Why? Because in t table I have degrees of freedom on vertical axis or in first column. So in order to find out critical value, I need degrees of freedom. Degrees of freedom cannot be simply calculated doing n1 plus n2 minus 2. No, it will be calculated using this formula, which is variance of first one divided by n1 plus variance of second divided by n2 to the power square, whole divided by variance of first divided by n1 square divided by n1 plus variance of second divided by n2 square divided by n2. So while it is difficult to remember formulas, if you remember the some concept of it, or if you remember the how is it taking that it is kind of a weighted average, then you should be able to do something on your MCQ if asked for it. So if you calculate degrees of freedom here, it comes out to be 65, which is approximately the same as the larger of the two. So 64 plus some addition. So approximately the same as the larger of the two. So even if you find out even if your this DF, the degrees of freedom, comes out to be 67, or it comes out to be 60, or it comes out to be 63 or 70, answer wouldn't much change, because in your table the difference is generally very large. That is, difference between critical value and actual value is generally quite large. So even if your degrees of freedom is not very accurate, is nearly accurate, even then your conclusion will be correct mostly of acceptance or rejection. But remember the method. So if you are asked that there are two populations with equal variances, and if you are asked which of the following variances should be used to calculate the t statistic, so you should be able to select the answer with pooled variance. And if you are asked that the population is with unequal variances, which of the following should not be used, then you should be able to answer select the pooled variance. So you should know the logic that pooled variance is calculated and used when you assume equal variances, and degrees of freedom is calculated when you assume unequal variances. So remember at least that, and also remember this formula, so that if you know degrees of freedom, or even if you do not know it, then you can take a guess and at least do the question using this formula. And this formula should be simple enough: actual minus hypothesized divided by standard error. So when you have mean differences, we have discussed two tests in mean differences. It can be calculated in another way as well, which is simpler. So let's say that I have Dow 10 and Dow 30. I have its mean return and I have its mean return. Previously, I had standard deviations of both, but I did not have a standard deviation of the difference itself. So I had a standard deviation of both, but I did not have a standard deviation of difference itself. Here in this question, I have been given the difference, average of differences. So in first case, maybe difference is 4 and then 2, then 3, then 4. And average of differences comes out to be 3.06. And I have also been given a standard deviation of these mean differences. So if I already have mean and I already have a standard deviation of that particular mean, then it becomes easier that I only have to calculate T stat. So my H naught is that mean 1 is equals to mean 2. If it is equal, then the difference between these two should be 0. T stat is actual difference. Actual difference is 3.06 minus hypothesized difference. Hypothesized difference is 0 divided by standard error. Standard error is standard deviation of difference divided by square root of n, which is 50. So simply the t-test that we did at very start. So this means that if you have the variance or the standard deviation of difference, then test will be easier or will be simple. So in all these examples that we did so far, we discussed same test, which is t-test, which is actual minus hypothesized value divided by standard error. And how do we get critical value? We get critical value from T table. And in order to get critical value, we need degrees of freedom and we need level of significance. So if we have these two, we can find out critical value from T table and then we can compare it with this statistic. In what kind of test is it used? In mean testing. That is testing mean to be equal to a value, testing mean to be greater than a value, testing mean to be less than a value, testing mean to be different from another mean. So these are all the tests in which t-test can be used. So far we have only discussed mean. Now let's say that you are asked about variance. That test whether variance is greater than a specific number or not, or variance is less than a specific number or not. So remember, when you are testing variance, you do not use t-test, you use chi-squared test or chi-squared distribution. So for variance, t distribution cannot be applied, chi-squared distribution is applied, and this is the symbol for testing variance against a specific value. How do you test it? So you form two hypotheses, H0 and HA. Null hypothesis is variance being greater than equal to a specific number, and alternate would be variance being less than that specific number. So this is your null hypothesis and this is your alternate hypothesis. So first step, define the hypothesis. You have defined it, that you want to test whether it is greater than equal to 10 or not. So this is null hypothesis and alternate hypothesis. Second step is that you calculate statistic. How do you calculate statistic? By using formula. Which formula? Chi-squared formula. And chi-squared formula is n minus 1 into sample variance divided by population variance. So remember this formula. This in denominator is your hypothesized value and this in numerator would already be given to you. Let's do an example. This should become clear doing the example. Let's do example. You continue with your analysis of Center Equity Fund, a mid-cap growth fund that has been in existence for only 24 months. Recall that during this period, sender equity achieved a sample standard deviation of 3.6%. This is sample standard deviation. What do we use chi-square test for? We use chi-square test for variance. So if I have to convert it into variance, then I will take its square. So this should be 3.6% square variance. You want to test a claim that the particular investment discipline followed by sender result in a standard deviation of monthly returns of less than 4%. So your hypothesis is that variance is less, that standard deviation is less than 4%. So your hypothesis is that standard deviation is less than 4%. Remember, whenever you are testing against being lower or greater, it is better that you always take H naught as greater and HA as lesser. The reason is so that you do not have to find out rejection level again and again. You know that rejection level will only happen in the left hand side. So always you will just go and check for left hand side and check whether this hypothesis is rejected or not. So they told you that you are testing it against 4%. So 4% is standard deviation. But this chi-square test is not for standard deviation, it is for variance. That means first you convert this standard deviation into variance. So your H naught is standard deviation being greater than equal to 4%. If I convert it into variance, it will be variance being greater than equal to 16. And if this is H naught, HA will be variance being less than 16. So I first identify H naught and HA, which is greater than 16 and less than 16. Second step, I decide the test statistic, which is chi-square, and I apply it. What is the formula? N minus 1 into variance of sample divided by hypothesized variance. So it will be N is 24. So 24 minus 1 multiplied by sample variance, which is 3.6. So 3.6 is the standard deviation. I take its square and it will give me variance, divided by hypothesized variance, which is 16. And when I calculate it, I will get a statistic which is 18.63. Again, I will find out, third step is that I find out critical value. How do I find out critical value? I find out critical value through chi-square table. So I go to chi-square table and I find out the degrees of freedom. Degrees of freedom is, let's say, 24 minus 1, which is 23. And this is probability in right tail. Where are we rejecting it? We are rejecting it in left tail. So that means rejection region should be on in left tail. This should be your rejection region. And let's say confidence, if you are not given confidence in level of confidence, assume it to be 95%. This is the normal or usual practice. So this should be 5%. If this is 5%, this will be 95%. And if this is 95%, the value here will be 13.091. So I will reject hypothesis if my chi-squared value is less than 13.091, that is on the left hand side, and I will fail to reject if it is on right hand side. So my chi-squared value came out to be 18.63. 18.63 will be somewhere here. So it is on this in the safe zone, not in the critical region. So I failed to reject this hypothesis. That means I failed to reject That means I failed to reject hypothesis that variance is greater than equal to 16%. So this is how it is. That is, this is true that variance is greater than equal to 16%. Any problem so far? So key point to remember is the steps and the test. So if mean is greater than a specific value, you use t-test. If mean is less than a specific value, or if mean is equal to a specific value, you use t-test. If you are testing difference between two means, you use t-test again. If you are using calculating variance against a specific percentage, or if you are calculating standard deviation against a specific percentage, then you first convert it into variance and then use the test. And test is chi-squared. And now if let's say that I tell you that like in mean, we discuss the difference. If I tell you that there are two population variances, variance A and variance B, and I want you to check whether these two are equal or not. So when we did mean difference test, we had an assumption that variances are unequal or equal. But how do you find out whether they are equal or unequal? For that again there is a test. So if you want to find out that variances are equal or unequal, the test that you conduct is known as F test. So F test is to test whether two variances are equal or unequal. So key is remember the formulas in all of these. So formula for this one was n minus 1 into s square divided by sigma square. This is hypothesized variance, this is sample variance. For T stat formula was actual minus hypothesized divided by standard error. And now for F test, formula is simply s square divided by s square. So it is simply s1 square divided by s2 square. So if you have two populations, two variances, then you take one of the variances in numerator and another in denominator. This is the F test statistic. Now the question is which one should go in numerator. So remember the larger of the two will go in numerator. Larger will go in numerator, smaller will go in denominator. So this is the larger, this is the smaller, so that your answer should be greater than 1. So first step, define the hypothesis. So when you define the hypothesis, your null hypothesis is that variances are equal, and alternate is that they are not equal. Then test stat is s1 squared divided by s2 squared, and larger one comes in numerator. Then critical value. Again, for finding out critical value, you need degrees of freedom, and degrees of freedom are the same, n1 minus 1 and n2 minus 1. In F test, you will have 2 degrees of freedom. First degrees of freedom related to first sample, and second degrees of freedom related to second sample. In chi-squared and in t-test, you used to have only 1 degree of freedom. So you used to do n1 plus n2 minus 2. But here you will not do n1 plus n2 minus 2, but instead you will take them separately. And when you take them separately, you will find them here in the table. So you will find it here in table. So let's say it is whatever it is. So you will find it here in table. This is your numerator degrees of freedom. This is your denominator degrees of freedom. So let's say that your degrees of freedom for first sample was 9. For second one it was, for example, 15. So let's say n for first sample was 10, and for second sample was 15. So degrees of freedom for this one will be 9, degrees of freedom for this one will be 14. So I will select 9 from here, 14 from here, and then I find out the intersection point, 2.65. So 2.65 will be my critical value. So first step, define the hypothesis. How do you define the hypothesis? Null hypothesis, that two variances are equal, alternate two variances are not equal. Second step, F test. How? S1 square divided by S2 square. Third step, critical value. How? Using the degrees of freedom of both the samples. And final step, compare. This is your critical value, for example. Compare your value with the critical value. If your value is greater than critical value, then you reject. Otherwise, you fail to reject. So if your F stat is coming out to be greater than critical value, then you reject. Otherwise, you fail to reject. This is F test. So again, mean, t-test, variance against a specific value, for example less than 10% or whatever, is chi-squared. Variance equality is F-test. So these are the major tests discussed in this reading, and towards the end of the reading, at very end or in just last section, they have provided one more test or some introduction, only an introduction to one more test, which is known as test concerning correlation. So this is an introduction to this test, and then test concerning correlation comes in detail in level 2. Here they have only provided you an introduction to test concerning correlation. What is this test? The test that they have discussed here is Spearman rank correlation coefficient. This is the name of test. What does it test? It tests whether two variables are correlated or not. So let's say you have X a variable, Y a variable. Let's say X is Sharpe ratio and Y is, for example, expense ratio, and you want to find out whether these two are correlated or not. That can be found using this particular test. So how do you find this out using this particular test? So simply speaking, first what you do is you list down X and Y. And Y. Just do it here. You list down values of X and you list down values of Y. So let's say X is 2%, then 3%, then 1.5%, then 2.5%, then 2% again, then 4%, and so on. So this is X. And you list down the corresponding values of Y. That is, if X is 2%, Y was 1%. If X is 3%, Y was, let's say, 1.5%. If X is 1.5%, Y was, let's say, 0.75%. And if it was 2.5%, it is, for example, 1.5%. And if it is 2%, it is, for example, 2%. If it is 4%, it is 3%. So you list down the values. Second step is that you rank them. Rank X and rank Y. How do you rank them? You start giving ranks to them. So you take the highest value, largest value, and give it a rank of 5. So if I look into it, largest is 4. So 4 will get rank 1. In Y, if I look at the largest, 3 is largest, so 3 gets 1 rank. Then second largest is 3%, so 3 get second rank. Second largest here is 1.5%, so it should get second rank. But then 1.5 appears 2 times. That means second and third rank both belong to 1.5. So in that case, we take an average. So we take 2 plus 3 divided by 2, which is 2.5. So I get 2.5 rank to this 1.5 and 2.5 to this 1.5. And sum of those will be 5. Now I move on to next largest. So 4 is done, 3 is done, then comes 2.5, third rank, and then comes 2 again twice. So that means fourth rank and fifth rank both belong to 2. So I take the average of 4 and 5, so which is 4.5 and 4.5, and then 1.5, which is 5. So this is the ranking from 1 to 5. For y again, I will do the same ranking. So 3 done, 1.5 done, and now, sorry, after 3 there is 2. So 2 will get second rank, and this will get 3.5 and 3.5. And then I have 1, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 3.5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I have uh, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, and then this is 6. So you allot the ranks based on their values. So largest one gets the 1 and smallest one gets the uh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it should be 6. So smallest one gets the 6 or whatever it is. So once you have done the ranking, then next step is that you take the differences of these ranks. So difference of this rank would be 4.5 minus 5, 2 minus 3.5, 0 minus 0.5, 4.5 minus 2 is 2.5 and 0. Once you have done this, then you take its square. So you square all these values. Once you have squared them, then you sum them up. So you will get sum of d squared. Then you apply the formula, that is sum of d squared, which you have calculated, multiplied by 6. This 6 is constant, divided by n into n square minus 1, and then subtract it all from 1. So this is the formula for test statistic of RS. Test statistic of RS. Any confusion up till here so far? If sample size is small, then you use this method, this formula. If sample size is large, then you will compute T stat, and for computing T stat, you will use this RS into this formula to compute T stat. Again, I don't think that these formulas are very much testable, but you should go through it once or just remember it. And there is an example in curriculum with respect to this. Just go through it once. So I don't think that it is very important to memorize this formula, but still just go through it. So but T test, chi-squared and F test are important. So memorize those three formulas. Generally, if there are very large formulas, difficult to remember formulas, then their testability is lower, because they are testing you not on your memory but on your ability to apply. So just go through it and try remembering it. Otherwise, if do not spend too much time memorizing this formula, it will, as it comes into questions, you will get used to it and it will become easier or better. So just go through an example which is in curriculum with respect to this. Just that this is just a last, I think, 1 page or 2 page in curriculum, and not so detailed. Other tests are much detailed, so give more importance to T test, chi-squared and F test, and within that, I think T test is the most used or most important, because that has a longer section on it. So this is it for today.